Working with Lord Sugar, the two things that struck me most were his work ethic and his consistency mixed with his toughness. If you want to have a business that's successful, you have to have being cool is making some money, being healthy, being a good dad, and being able to go to the beach and enjoy my weekend. That is success for me. I had stayed the same. I was still the same person. My knowledge was still the same. The only thing that had changed was the amount of people who knew who I was. When I drill in and mentor people, when I drill into the detail, a lot of people aren't actually achieving a whole lot in the day. They're just exhausting themselves being busy fools. I don't think it's an option. It's essential. I've never had any form of success in life or business without taking a huge risk. Success is always on the other side of a big risk. Do you know why? Because 99% of people will not quit their job to go and start the business because of that risk. I live by the policy, how you do anything is how you do everything. What I learned working with Lord Sugar for 8.5 years was
Series 8 of the Dig podcast. I can't believe it, guys. We are over 250,000 downloads. The growth of the podcast has been amazing. But I just have one thing I'm asking of you guys today. If you love listening to the Dig podcast and you love all the new guests each week, then I'm asking if you could hit subscribe or follow. So if you listen on Apple or Spotify, if you could hit follow, and if you watch on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It means the podcast reaches more people. When I reach out, people actually have heard of the Dig podcast, they know about it, and they're more willing to be a guest. And then I'm able to bring even more actionable advice to you guys. So it's really it really helps the podcast grow. So I'm asking for your help on that point today, and I just can't wait to dive into this series, and I can't wait for you to hear from our next guest.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Dig podcast. I am in Australia this morning, guys, live on Zoom with Mark Wright. So for anyone who maybe doesn't know Mark, I'm sure lots of you do, Mark is an award-winning influential entrepreneur. Now, this is some intro that I have for him here, and he absolutely deserves every word, but he is widely known here in the UK and Ireland, I suppose, for winning BBC's The Apprentice. Everyone knows that big guy that sits behind the table. Well, Mark and Lord Sugar were business partners. How did that go? We're going to find out today. He went on after that, which is probably the most exciting part of the story, to be one of the UK's fastest growing. He had and developed it, one of the fastest growing digital agencies, Climb Online, and that was in partnership with Lord Sugar. And you know, there's so many different things. He's won so many awards over the time. He's like, I suppose, an entrepreneur that we all look up to here. He speaks globally about leadership and marketing and business, and he has so many people with a straight talking, actionable advice, which is why he had to be a Dig podcast guest. You guys know I love people like that just share the knowledge. He's only 34, and he's achieved so much already. Like, I had them all written down here. Forbes 30 under 30 list he was listed on. Like, that's incredible. And his dedication to the business sector, you know, has made him stand out amongst many business owners and successful people. But he decided to sell Climb Online for a high figure sum, 7 figures. And he sold it to Global Group XDNA. And I hope I have all these details right. But it made him the first Apprentice winner to successfully complete a third-party exit. So that's, you know, a pretty big achievement, and we're going to hear all about that now. But he's now back in Australia. We're maybe going to get him back over here very, very soon. But he's back spending time with his family, and that actually is what matters the most when it all boils down to it, is our families. That's why we're doing all of this. So I loved whenever he said that to me when we were chatting. You know, he wants to spend time with the people that matter, because otherwise, why are we doing all of this? But I like him, as I said, because he's straight talking. I've listened to lots of his videos online, and he's not afraid to say what the things we need to hear. And how honoured are we to have him on the Dig podcast today. Thank you for being here, Mark Wright.
bloody hell. What an introduction that was. I'm just going to look off.
Don't you dare. I'm ready. We're ready for this morning. But thanks for being here. I know that you are back home. That's where home is, isn't it, in Australia?
Sure is. I'm obviously from are you getting a bit of a echo, a bit of a background?
There wasn't when we were chatting earlier.
No.
Since I hit record.
No, I only, and now it's gone. So I don't know if you can just keep that out, leave it in. This is what happens
Okay.
with a podcast. But yeah, so I'm sitting here from Australia, very late in the evening here, very early in the morning for you. And as you can tell from my accent, and everyone could tell for the 15 years I lived in the UK that I wasn't from the UK. I got there from backpacking. And like all Aussies, I wanted to see where Australia had come from and those people who turned up on a boat. So I turned up in England and I tried to dominate that country as much as they've dominated us over the years. And it was a successful undertaking, I think.
And tell us, like, so how did backpacking lead you to sitting in front of the big man?
Well, that's a really crazy question. It starts back in Australia, actually. I always, when I grew up, I wanted to be a football player, a soccer football, proper football, let's say. And turns out I wasn't actually very good at football, so I needed to find a new career choice. So I started working as a personal trainer. I loved health, I loved fitness, but I quickly realized there was no rich personal trainers. I think Joe Wicks might be the only man I know that's made any money out of it. It's long hours, it's hard slog for very little money. And I had the fortune of training one of the richest men in Australia at the time. And I said to him, John, who makes all the money? I want to start a business that actually makes money. And he said, all the money is in sales and marketing. If you learn to be a good salesperson or a good marketeer, you'll make a fortune. So I rang the college where I did my personal training certificate and I got a job working with them as their sales and marketing manager. And the bloke there had invented a system where Australia is such a big country that most people at the time did school on the radio, or they used to have to drive 6 or 7 hours to go and do study. And this guy's business was going broke. The first month I worked there, we did $2,000 in sales and he was making record losses and only had about, I think it was 60 days worth of cash left before they went bankrupt. But the system was amazing. Basically, it was the first online curriculum where you could study online in Australia. But he was just having trouble like getting anyone to sign up because it seemed a bit sort of too good to be true because it was new, right? And I said to him, how are you advertising this? And he said, I've got it in the yellow pages. And I was like, mate, no one reads the yellow pages anymore. It has to be on Google. This is like when Google Ads just came out and all of this sort of stuff. And he said to me, well, I don't know anything about that. I said, okay, I'll teach myself. So I taught myself how to do SEO and how to build a website. And I got his website ranking #1 on Google for the word personal training course. And we went from $2,000 a month in sales to $240,000 a month in sales from one keyword going up the rankings on Google. And it was the first time in my life I was ever good at a job. I'd sold shoes, I'd worked in restaurants, I'd washed cars, I'd done so many jobs, and I always hated work. Work was always work. I was looking at the clock for it to hit 5 o'clock so I could go home. And when I found AdWords, when I found digital marketing, it was the first time in my life I was good at something. It was the first time in my life I could work all night and forget to eat, forget to look at the clock because I was engaged in what I was doing. And I truly believe that you can't be successful if you don't love what you do because it's just too hard otherwise. But digital marketing was the first time I loved what I did and I was good at what I did. And that's when the light bulb went off that I'd found my career path. So long story short, I was backpacking over in the UK. I started working. I ran out of money after 2 years of backpacking. I had 173 pounds left. Not a lot of money in London, let me tell you. And was working at a digital marketing agency, 500 employees. They were a terrible company. The way they treated their employees was awful. The way they treated their customers was even worse. And I, like all entrepreneurs, was like, I can do this better than my boss. I love this industry. I'm good at this industry. And my boss, the company I work for, is doing it terribly. I can do it better. So I took it to 4 banks. And because I'm not from the UK, they wouldn't give me the £25,000 loan I asked for. So my friend said to me, bro, why don't you try out for The Apprentice? I said, what's The Apprentice? He said, it's a TV show where an old man yells at you. And I was like, I've never heard of it. Who's this old man? And he said, his name's Alan Sugar. He's this filthy billionaire, owns all these businesses, owned Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So I did some research on Lord Sugar. And I was like, yeah, seems cool. So I went down to the tryouts in The Apprentice with 75,000 other people in 2014. I was one of 1,000 called back. I was one of 100 called back in the third series. And then I was one of the final 20 called on to the series 10 of the show, which aired on the BBC in 2014. It was the 10th anniversary series. Normally they have 12 or 14 contestants. In my year, they had 20, which makes me, I say, statistically the greatest of all time. And I went on to win the show. And as you said in your introduction, Lord Sugar and I started Climb Online, and it's became one of the most successful companies to come off that program, which I then went on to sell. And it's given me the wealth, let's say, to go and mentor, work with, and invest in other businesses and do things like your show today, because I believe truly that entrepreneurs owe it to other entrepreneurs to share the secret. There's so much noise out there in what's real and what's not real, and self-help and mentors and all of this fake crap, that knowing who to listen to is hard these days in the noise. So I spend half of my time trying to be more successful and the other half trying to help other people become successful. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, here, do you ever sit and, what was that? Is that just grit and determination made you go, do you want it? Was it youth? Was it that made you say, I'm just going to go for this here? Or what kind of confidence? Were we always that kind of confident person? Or what would you say to people who just aren't taking that? That was, I suppose it wasn't a risk because you'd nothing to lose, but it's a pretty daunting experience to sit in front of Lord Sugar, I would imagine. But is that just something you've always had, that kind of fearlessness?
No, I think I've always had a certain sort of confidence where I believe avidly in myself. The scariest decision you can make in this life, I believe, is quitting your full-time employment to go and start a business, especially if you have a family or a mortgage. That decision, it doesn't matter who you are or what stage of your life, that is a scary undertaking. And I've never had any form of success in life or business without taking a huge risk. Success is always on the other side of a big risk. Do you know why? Because 99% of people will not quit their job to go and start the business because of that risk. And it's that percentage of people who do, the crazy ones, that have the guts that then go on to be successful. And when the BBC called me and they said I'd been successful in my application, they told me that it would take about 6 months, the process, if I was successful. I would need to quit my job and I would need to give up my flat. So it rendered me virtually homeless and unemployed. And if I got fired first, I would have had no flat and no job. And the pay was £1,500 for 6 months. So the risk was enormous. The reward changed my life completely, made me a multi-millionaire, made me business partners with Britain's most famous, arguably second most famous businessman of all time. So it paid off, but it was a huge risk. And everything I do every day is risky. Every decision I make now is thinking, I bet the house, multiple times. We were talking before we went on about the new airline I've started. The decisions we're making now are even more scary, but you get a tolerance to taking that level of risk because, like you said, what really matters, your health matters, your family matters. Who cares about a bit of money? It comes and goes, and reputation comes and goes in the wind. As long as I'm here, I'm going to have a good time and take some swings at the plate.
Yeah, right. Now we're ready. Everybody's fired up. They're listening. They're like, right, listening to people speak the way you do. Actually, sometimes it can be simple words that make people say, right, I'm going to take the action. So that's why conversations like this, like you said, are so powerful, because it can literally change someone's way of thinking. So this is good stuff. What I want to know is, I watch The Apprentice sometimes and my toes curl because that hard-hitting way that Lord Sugar speaks to people makes me want to cry. And I'm like, oh my God, why do people say so strong? But I suppose what I want to move on to is, that's just my opinion, is I think I might crumble because I'm not a very emotionally strong person. But what was the most valuable thing that he taught you, Mark? Does anybody ever ask you that? What do you think would be the most thing? Not saying technical thing, I'm saying, was there something key that he taught you that still sticks with you to this day?
Well, firstly, to say about you would be far you'd be very surprised at how strong you actually are when you're tested. I was shocked when I did the Apprentice, one, at how much pressure I could handle. Two, how many different businesses or concepts you can learn, different industries, very, very quickly. One day we'd wake up knowing nothing about candles, and by the end of the day, we'd have a whole candle business, and you'd be having the branding and the website, and you'd know everything about the ingredients. And the next day, you'd be doing billboards, and the next day, you'd be doing cake shops or whatever. And you can handle a lot more pressure than you think you're capable of, and mums particularly, mind you. So what did I learn from him? Well, on my third day of working for Alan Sugar, his top advisor pulled me into a room and he said, Mark, the best piece of advice I can give you to be a good business person is you must have a rhinoceros skin. And I had no idea what he was talking about. And he said, the more successful you can be as a person is the more you can tolerate, the more stress you can handle, because business is a very savage, very vicious place. And if it's not for the lighthearted, and if you can't handle pressure, you can't handle being spoken to in a certain way, you can't handle tough days, you're not a business leader. Forget about it. You'll be in company's house as a liquidated or an insolvent business. You need to be able to understand that most days are going to be tough. There's going to be more bad days than good days. The good days, however, are going to be fantastic, but forget about those for now. Can you handle the stress and pressure to lead people, to create a vision, to go through lawsuits, to get sworn at, to have tough board meetings with Alan Sugar? And if you can, you'll go a long way. And what I learned working with Lord Sugar for 8.5 years was it doesn't matter. There's lots of great companies that are closed down now, not because the company or the product wasn't good, but because the leader gave up. Before you will give up before your business does, let me promise you. Your business is fine. It's the individual we need to work on, and that mindset. And working with Lord Sugar, the two things that struck me most were his work ethic and his consistency mixed with his toughness, with his just raw hardcore strength. And if you look at all of the Apprentice winners, when I sold my company, I was only one of 4 left with him, because his mentoring is a very certain brand. It's tough. Every day is absolutely ringing you until you can't handle anymore. And I loved it. I loved absolutely every single minute of it, because that brand of mentoring works for me, pushing me to my limit. Doesn't work for everyone, but I believe that if you love what you do and you're good at what you do, and the world deserves to see what you do, you need to push yourself, and you need accountability. Business success is based on accountability. If you're asking, oh, my business is not doing so well, I bet it doesn't have a board. I bet you don't have a coach. I bet you don't have a mentor. I bet you don't listen to podcasts. Accountability and knowledge will get you everywhere in business.
Right. So tough love works is what it points down to.
Tough love is, in my book, the only ingredient.
Right.
The only ingredient. My business partner in the aeroplane business, we had a record month this month, and my fiance said to me, why don't you tell him he had a good month? I hope he doesn't watch this. I said, I can't do that, because he'll then deem this as acceptable. We're only at the start of the journey. A record month is a small record. You want to, particularly, with my kids is the same, with my business partners is the same, is you've got to be careful when taking your foot off the gas. The foot always needs to be on the gas to achieve more. If you stop going to the gym, you stop getting the results. You stop eating right, you stop getting the results. You stop that pressure in your business, you stop getting the results. Everything's constantly being worked on and refined 1% every day to be better. And it sounds stressful and it sounds like a lot, and it isn't for everyone. I'm not here to say that business is it's not for many people, but this is what works, and I've seen it work. It's worked for me. Lord Sugar made me into a brilliant businessman. And when I met him, I lived in a house with 11 people. I had maybe £1,200 to my name. And within 2 years, I was a multimillionaire in 2 years, just from what he taught me. And if you ask the young boy that met Alan Sugar if he wanted the mentoring of the £250,000, I would have taken the £250,000 because I'd never seen that sort of money. But the key was the mentoring. The key was what was in Alan Sugar's head. He downloaded that to me, his connections, what he knows, how he works, how to structure deals. and it made me tens of millions of pounds. The knowledge is what we're after.
Yes, yes. But you've also, and we're going to move on now because there's so much I want to talk to you about, but you've also got it. You have it. You have that drive that some people don't have or want. And I understand why some people might not want that, because that can literally just consume you. But there's people listening to the podcast, Mark, and they're in the world of work, so they're not perhaps a business person or entrepreneurial, but they're working hard within their roles, and that is so important as well. I listened to a thing that you were talking about setting goals, right, and writing them down. So people in the world of work, people in their business, entrepreneurs, whatever, talk to us about that physical act of writing something down, wherever it may be. It doesn't have to be a big fancy board on the wall, wherever. You believe that's really important, right?
It is. If I had a gun to my head and they said, what's the most important thing you've learned in your business journey? I'd say writing goals down would be the number one thing. If I could only pick one thing, that would be it. Only 15% of adults write their goals down. They're responsible for 85% of the wealth. So people who have goals, people who write their goals down, achieve more than the rest of society put together. It's funny how often I've said that. And since I've written my own goals down, I haven't been doing it my whole life. I only started in my early adulthood. Every year since I've written my goals down, I've tripled my income every year consistently since I've written my goals down. And my only regret now is I didn't set them higher. I look back at my goals from 2012 and 2014 it was, or 15. And my goal was to buy 2 houses. I didn't own any houses. So it was a pretty audacious goal to buy 2. The end of the year, I owned 7. What if I wrote down 15 and I hit 12? I'd still be pretty happy. And I think all of us are aiming so low that anything seems okay. But if you have no goals, if you're a business leader, you're a manager in employment, which is incredibly important. You lead a team. If you don't know what you're trying to achieve each day in your own life, with your health, with your family, with your fitness, with your wealth, how motivating is that if you're my boss? If you don't know what you're trying to achieve, how can you help me? The best leaders have the best visions, the best goals. They're very purposeful individuals, and the people can feel your purpose. And say that again, people can feel your purpose. And it's so important, because to be a leader, to have a great business, to be a good manager, you have to have that purpose, to be motivational. Because people will sense within 5 minutes of having a coffee with you, this person doesn't know what they want. They're kind of a bit overweight. They kind of are complaining a lot. I don't feel this person's going to help me achieve my goals, because no matter what, most people only care about themselves, and rightly so. And most people, when they're speaking to someone, is subconsciously thinking, can this person help me achieve what I want to achieve? And I bet you if you hang around with me for a moment, you'll feel, this mother can help me, man. This guy's going to help me get to where I need to go. And I want to be around him, because he's going to help me get a better house, a better car, my kids in private school, whatever it might be. And it's important. And I've got all of that from goals.
Is the science behind it, if you write it, like I used to think, now I became a lot more knowledgeable and educated, thank God, but I used to think that was real airy-fairy, writing things down, and you just have to work hard to get what you need. That's been ingrained into me. Like my daddy's very old school, right? And if I told him we had this conversation, he would still diss that and say that is the biggest load of crap. You have to work hard. Don't be worrying about that. And that was ingrained into me from I was young. But since I started to listen to people like you, and obviously had my own businesses, I know that there is something in that. But what is it? Is it science behind writing it down reacts your brain to work harder? Is that what it is? Triggers your brain?
That's one of there's two reasons. And your dad's probably a lovely guy, but I'd love to see my bank account versus his.
His right. Okay, go.
We open both up. I think results speak louder than anything. And he's probably a great guy to have a beer with. But, this is, who do you take business advice from? I watched Alan Sugar write his goals down. I watched Richard Branson post and read his goals on his Twitter, So here's the people that are successful who all do it, who all have mentors and goals. Here's the people who don't, and they're all sort of complaining and struggling. So I think I know which advice I tend to listen to. But it's two ways why we write our goals down. What you said, first of all, it's just putting pen to paper and actually as a human being thinking, why am I getting out of bed every day? What am I trying to achieve here for myself and my family? You would be shocked how many people have never asked themselves that question. They just go to work, to their job, to their business, and they don't actually know why they're there. If you ask them, why are you here? Oh, to pay the bills, to pay the mortgage, to buy food at the shop. That's pretty dull. You know, that's not a great reason to get out of bed and live. I wouldn't call that living. I'd call that surviving. When you start asking yourself, what am I trying to do here? What is good for me? Well, I want to have a BMW and I want to send my kids to private school and I want to be able to go on 2 holidays a year and own a holiday house. Now we're talking, because now you're sort of starting to dream a little bit. And when you start to dream, just by writing it down, sometimes you will start looking for connections, people, processes to bring into your world that help you achieve those goals subliminally. But let's get out of the airy fairy world that you and your dad don't like.
No, I do. No. I love it. But what I'm saying is, when you're brought up with that mindset, it can be so hard to shift it to, I'm saying a lot of people would think like him. I absolutely don't. I was sort of, I'm thinking about everybody's listening to the podcast that may be in the same mindset as my father is really what I'm talking about. So no, I'm with you. I'm here. I'm imagining.
Oh, good. Well, listen. My parents are in that mindset.
Yes.
And, I love my parents to bit. My mum and dad are my best friends. I wouldn't ask them for business advice.
Yeah. Okay.
The worst people you can ask for business advice is family and friends, because they don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see you dream and lose. They don't want to see you lose money. So they tell you, just stay in your lane, do your thing, all of that stuff. That's why the people you surround yourself with, the 5 people you hang around with, are so important, because you become a reflection of them. You truly do. But once you've got your goals written down, amazing things starts to happen. I believe, rightly or wrongly, things start to come into your life to produce the results there. But the other thing is, when I'm mapping out my week, I always have my goals on a Sunday night. I write them all down, and I have yearly goals and weekly goals, and I reflect on them. How am I doing? And it's sort of always in the back of my mind. But when I write my goals down at the start of the week, I then look at my schedule for the week, at my calendar of all my meetings, and I map, will any of these meetings help me achieve this goal? And if it's a no, I cancel the meeting. So then I'm only taking actions that are helping me achieve my goals, because a lot of people would say, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed. What are you busy with? Emails about what? And if you really dig into what people are doing, it's sort of bullshit a lot of the time. It's like just being busy, but they're not really achieving much. So having goals gives you that center point of focus to come back to and make sure that you're actually being productive with your time. And if someone asks you, a team member, a business partner, a staff member, what's your goals? You can tell them with clarity and direction, and that inspires the people in your life.
Recently, I've been doing some research on different conditions, family, things that are going on in different health conditions online. And, it's very hard sometimes to find the right information. And definitely my go-to now is Mars Pharmacy. I found Mars online during COVID actually, and started to follow the owner, Una, and all the unreal advice she was given for everyday issues that we all experience, educating us on things that are going on in everyday life, but we just don't know the facts and how to treat those things and how to, what we should be doing, and just unbelievable education really. And that started my relationship with Mars way back a few years ago. And we're absolutely delighted that they're now the partner for the Dig podcast. And you're going to hear a little bit more about them today.
At Mars, we're proud to serve our communities, arming our customers with the knowledge and information needed to take control of their health. Our mission is to champion wellness within the communities we serve and beyond, and to fiercely build a community where everyone has access to trusted healthcare information for their individual needs. Our expert teams are on hand to support and advise you in relation to all areas of health and well-being. You can pop in to see us in any of our 10 stores in Dublin, or visit us online at mars.ie, or you can contact us on our social media for health and wellness and beauty advice. Our warehouse team work really hard to ensure speedy delivery of all online orders. And don't forget that we ship to Northern Ireland and you can enjoy 15% off all full priced items on mars.ie with the code DIG15.
Thank you so much for that, Una. And now back to our guest on the Dig podcast.
I love that. Right, okay, so because that actually leads me on, and I didn't plan it to the next bit, because I was looking down your breakdown of your day. So I have been watching you very carefully, and this is how this podcast is not about me. This is how I live my life out. And it's so bad. I don't even know how I'm actually got any kind of success at all, but I just go from email to inbox message to a phone call to a meeting to an email to back to the phone call. I'm like, oh my God. So I watched your video, and even though I know this stuff, it really hit me hard. You are so strategic with your day, and obviously that's why you just drop in that you now own an airline. But you know, you're so strategic with your day, and that is obviously leading to your success. Tell us how we map out that day. Well, obviously you're saying to line it up with your goals, but you actually do have a set structure, don't you?
Definitely. And I've been religious with it for nearly 15, 20 years. And it starts on a Sunday night, and it's so enjoyable. It's always like with a beer or a glass of wine. I make my life fun, by the way. I'm probably sounding like a business robot. I have the best life. My life is unbelievable. And I've made it that way. It's all by design. So on a Sunday night, I get a glass of wine or a bottle of beer, and I look at, this is my diary, and I look at my goals, and I write down and I plan my week. And that is everything from haircuts, gym, meetings, phone calls, time for emails, all of that stuff. But I try to have the purpose to each day, and I do it in hour blocks. And the purpose of this is because the day can really run you. You can sort of, as you just said, go from email to phone call to wandering over here, and sort of a day goes by really quickly, and you're like, what have I actually achieved today? Like, I feel knackered. I'm really tired. I'm exhausted, but I can't really point to one thing that's grown my business, which has grown my wealth. And that's just pretty much everyone. And when I drill in and mentor people, when I drill into the detail, a lot of people aren't actually achieving a whole lot in the day. They're just exhausting themselves being busy fools.
Busy fools. I can see everybody like, yeah, that's me. And you know, you can talk about it and complain about it as much as you want, but as you say, we're setting ourselves up for that feeling of being a busy fool, because and I fully admit, hand up, this is what, last night I was doing it when I was thinking about you, and I was writing my notes, and then I lifted my phone and somebody had emailed me to book a meeting. I was like, finish the notes for Mark. Finish them, and then don't look at your emails until, because you were ringing in my ears about a set time for your emails only, because they're what suck the life out of you for hours and hours.
They are killers. And if you spoke to a lot of my friends, there's not many of them left, I'm afraid, because you'd say, what's it like being Mark's friend? And they would say, well, he never answers his phone. I've never rang his phone and he answers on the first go. He takes hours to read and write back to WhatsApps or DMs on social media or whatever it is. And it's true. And sometimes I feel some guilt about it, because I have some lovely friends that they make all of the effort in our life, 100% of the effort. And they ring my phone and all of this stuff, but it's pretty much constantly on airplane mode or silent. And because I'm focused on the one thing I'm doing. I don't listen to my AirPods while I'm working. I don't have multiple tabs open. I don't have multiple screens. I have one thing at a time, and I nail it. I live by the policy, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do anything is how you do everything. If I'm washing up a mug, I wash that mug up perfectly. And I dry it and I put it back in the cupboard perfectly, because if I can't wash that mug correctly, how can I lead a big company? And I do it in all things. I try to focus on one thing and do the best job of anyone that's washed that mug or responded to that email. Or when I'm on a phone call with someone, I'm not reading my emails at the same time. I'm giving that person 100% of my attention, because something really important might happen on that phone call, and that person can feel that I'm giving them 100%. When I'm with you now on this podcast, everything's on airplane mode. Everything else is shut. Nothing else is important to me in this hour other than you and the audience of this podcast, because whether I'm speaking to one person or delivering a talk to 2,000 at the Excel, I'm the same. You get the same me all the time. I'm on fire constantly.
You are.
And that's the difference. Is you have a meeting with me, I'll blow your pants off every time. If I go in and ask you for a deal and there's another salesperson coming in after me, they should forget about it. Don't turn up, because you're wasting your time if I'm in the race, because I will give it 100%.
I heard you, a man said in the audience to you one day, like, I've never, you're pitching too late. It was for hope I'm getting the way of this right. It was a journalist, or no, somebody asked you owned a digital marketing agency. Do you remember that conversation? And,
yes, I remember.
Well, I've never heard of you. And I was like, oh, I can't believe you just said that. But it just, and I seen Lord Sugar do a wee thing in the side of his mouth, like, that's my boy. And I was thinking, that is the just pure. You're on fire. You're gonna get the deal, and I can see that. Right, this has given us all the motivation that we need actually today. It's inspired me. Like I openly, honestly said, this is terrible. I've never written a thing down in my life, but I'm going to. So you've inspired me. And it's just, do you know what my main reason would be for saying that is? I don't have time to write it down. I don't have time to write it down and look at it again and write it down. But that is very narrow-minded of me. I know, and I'm going to change my ways, because something has to change with me in my life. Anyway, you're helping me. Let's keep going. I want to talk about your online, how important your online presence is for your brand and your business. Mark, like, that is where it all started for you with Climb Online and everything you were doing for the gym owner or the personal trainer. How important is it for people to be representing themselves and their businesses and their work online?
Okay, I don't think it's an option. It's essential. I think the online space, love it or hate it, and there's a lot to love and hate about it, trust me, is as important as doing your accounting. It's as important as oxygen for us to breathe. If you want to have a business that's successful, you have to have a digital marketing or a digital media strategy in this modern world, because we've seen with things like COVID, you never know what tomorrow brings. You need to have a great website. You need to have social media. All of these things are really important to your business growing and sustaining itself and marketing itself. And a business that is successful understands how to leverage it. And that's all forms of marketing. Marketing is essential, and sales are essential to a business. It's just understanding that, spending adequate money on it, having the adequate people in your business to run it. But I always understood, and hence why I went on a TV show, that people buy from people they know, like, and trust. But above all, they buy from people they know. And before The Apprentice, I couldn't get a meeting with a carpet shop. I would ring up, they'd say, "You're the 15th phone call we've had today, mate. Forget about it." I went on the BBC One for 15 weeks saying, "Mark Wright, climb online, Mark Wright, climb online." I could get a meeting in any boardroom in the United Kingdom immediately. I had stayed the same. I was still the same person. My knowledge was still the same. The only thing that had changed was the amount of people who knew who I was. And my sales went, my first year before The Apprentice, I did $70,000 in £70,000. It was £77,000 my first year before The Apprentice. My first year after The Apprentice, 1.9 million. The next year, £4 million. And it just went up and up and up and up like a rocket ship from that point. And the only thing that had changed was the amount of people who knew who I was. So marketing, TV, whatever it is, at the end of the day, is all the same. If your business is not doing what it needs to do at the moment, you probably have an audience issue. Not enough people know who you are and what you're doing. So you need to get yourself out there, and that will tell you quite quickly if you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. But you can't always listen to the noise, right? Because that was another thing that I wanted to speak to you about was, so we're building our profile online, we're active, we're showing up every day, we're consistent. With that comes, and I've heard you speak openly about it, the onslaught of negativity and people that do not like you doing this. So you're a very strong, resilient person, obviously, but have you got a key tip for the people that are holding back because they are afraid of what is most definitely coming once they put themselves out online?
Well, it's definitely coming.
Definitely
No
coming.
doubt about it. The more successful you get, the more haters you get just naturally. And I have trolls, I have haters, I have people send stuff to the house, I have people, all sorts of weird stuff. So weird stories. I could fill a whole podcast up with the weirdness that happens once you start having some success. But it used to affect me, the stuff online I would read about myself that wasn't true or quite abusive, and it would have an effect. There's no way you could read it about yourself and it not have an effect. But as I got older and hopefully a bit wiser, I understood that these people don't know me. There's questioners if they're even a real person. Let's say they are. It really, if you read into the comments and you go onto their profiles, what this person is doing is it's a reflection of themselves. They're showing you a side of them. You represent something that they're jealous of: your wealth, your happiness, your fitness, your business success, your fame. And a lot of the people that actually troll me and hate me, funnily enough, own digital marketing companies. And I think what happened was they saw a guy come into the industry, start from literally nowhere, make millions of pounds, and it was annoying because they were probably hustling for years and years and no one knows who there was, and their business probably hasn't done great or won awards or whatever. And they just hate that I've come in and been successful. So my success was annoying to them. So if you've got trolls and haters, you're probably doing really well. And that's the thing to remember in yourself. And now, to be honest, I don't even think about it. It doesn't worry me at all. And it took some years of practicing, and I understood that the more haters I have, the better I'm doing, and I should be proud of that. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And you know, I'm more private now than ever. I don't have social media apps on my phone. I don't make as much content. I've been very lucky where I've had a lot of success, and now my focus is on making my businesses famous, making them profitable, not me. I've had fame. I've been as famous as can be from that Apprentice TV show and other things I've done around the world. And I've realized that anonymity, not being known, is a pretty powerful thing. And just, you know, you wouldn't get me in Big Brother or Celebrity Jungle or whatever that stuff is for all the tea in China. You know, that is not cool to me. Being cool is making some money, being healthy, being a good dad, and being able to go to the beach and enjoy my weekend. That is success for me.
Yeah, and I suppose with your visibility online has helped build that success, and now you have the luxury of stepping away from that visibility personally, which is the goal, right? But I suppose at the start of the journey, or when you're through it, being online with your business and your work is, like Mark said, if they don't know you, you're not getting that meeting, or you're not getting that call.
It was essential to the speed in which I grew and built my success as well. So I'd do it all over the same again if I could go back in time. And I have got a luxurious position where I can not be the center of attention anymore. And some people love to be the center of attention. And I'd say a lot of people think I love it, but I don't. I certainly don't. I like being a businessman. I love business. I'm a nerd about business and marketing, and I enjoy this. And I understood that was a course of action I needed to take to be successful.
Absolutely. And you said something in one of your videos, and it hit me again. My God, I'm getting hit flat out here, but it hit me was, if you get hit by a bus, would your business still be able to survive and make money? My answer to that is, for me and my businesses, is no, because I am my business, as in my voice, and people who are needing me, and I need to change that model because I need to make it work when I'm not working, if you know what I mean. So that made me realize, how do I do that, and start to think about different things. But that's obviously something that you give advice out a lot about making systems and processes that will run when you're not there.
And so all of my businesses, we have what's called the number 6 bus test.
Yes.
So if you, me, or any member of our team got hit by the number 6 bus, what would happen tomorrow? Well, we're screwed. Okay, well, that's a huge problem, because people have a habit of getting sick, pregnant, dying. You know, that's called a human being. changing jobs, careers, whatever can happen. Then their dog dies and they're distraught for a month. We still have to have a business tomorrow. So let's pretend Fred doesn't exist tomorrow. What would we do? And we come up with processes and alternatives, so it doesn't matter if any member of the team isn't here tomorrow. We still have a great business. But most importantly, all of the time, any entrepreneur should be trying to do less in a business. If you go into any small business that's struggling, I bet you the owner's doing too many things. Oh, I'm just sending out the invoices out of Xero. Oh, I'm just taking this call from the customer. And you're like, why are you doing that? You have I can do it way better. I don't really trust they'll do as good a job as me. Now, how naive do you need to be to think you can do everything better than everyone? The truth is you kind of can't. So just accept that and hire great people because it makes your life amazing. I know when I go to bed tonight or I go for a run or I go to the gym, all my businesses are still answering calls, sending invoices, making money, and I'm nothing to do with any of it because I've been able to accept that I'm only one cog in the whole wheel. And it makes the business. And by the way, when you go to sell your business, imagine if someone comes in to buy your business and they say, how much do you do here? Oh, I do everything. Well, you don't have a business. We're not going to buy anything because we're just buying you. When you come in, when I sold my last business, as you said, for quite a lot of money, what do you do here? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can interview all of the employees. I come in once a month. I do a board meeting. I shake a few hands and I'm out the door. Wow, this is a valuable company. And that's what we're all aiming for because you will exit your business at some point. It will go under, it will sell, or you will die. That is the three exit strategies of a business. Now, we want to sell it. You don't want to leave your kids a problem. You don't want to leave your husband or wife some nightmare that they don't understand. Our goal is to grow and scale a brand and business and to sell it. And I don't know where all that gets lost in the translation because you make the money when you sell. So, I mean, it's pretty easy if you have the right goals and the right advice around you, and it's more enjoyable to run a business where you're doing less. You can have holidays and your phone's not ringing off the hook, or you're doing emails by the pool or whatever it is. You can have a holiday and make more money while you're on holidays than you did the week before you weren't. That's a good business.
It is a good business. That is a good business. Do you know, I suppose it's not to make anyone listening feel deflated because this is a journey and we all have to learn these things as we go. And it's like realization and awareness. Like, I feel like I've been hit by a bus since I started to read about you because if I die, there's no money. As in, no, there's no more money. No, there's not. No, there's not. I mean, you just said if you die. So if you die or if your business goes under or if you sell, is that what you said? The three things?
Yep.
There's three exit strategies. So I have built a business on me, which is not probably a very scalable business because I am not personally, I can't do no more. Everyone has the best of me at the moment. So I need to reevaluate, and this is what the journey is about, and this is why we do podcasts, and this is why we learn, and it's very, very hard-hitting advice. So thank you for that. And I do.
By the way, that's okay for the first couple of years. It should be all about you to build it up and understand it and get a reputation. And my businesses have been exactly the same. But it is exhausting to think about that being what it is for life.
Yes.
That is an exhausting prospect. And our job is to start it, build it, create something great, and start to slowly step back away from it through systems, processes, and people. And if you can do that, you're an entrepreneur. You're a great business leader. So you should, if you're hearing this and you think, oh gosh, I'm so far from this, I'm only here now, 15 years into the journey. I wasn't here 1 year into the journey. I didn't have the money or the knowledge to do it. Yes. So it takes time and you will get there, but it's very important to know where you're headed.
Yeah, so we're not unfixable. We can do something about this, right? That's what you're saying. There is time. You are obviously into making sure that you have the best kind of life for you and your family. And actually, Mark, the Dig podcast, this series is sponsored by a pharmacy over here, which is, people would say, well, why is that a good fit for this series? Because I've been spending a lot of time recently on how my kind of wellness and what I want in life and what's most important, and mine's my family. So I want to be as well as I can be. I don't sleep very well because I'm always my mind's so busy, and I don't really look after myself, but I'm trying to fitness wise. And I suppose when I teamed up with Mars Pharmacy, they wanted to teach people in the world of work ways, or educate them on ways to look after themselves a bit better, because we can't be the best version of ourselves if we're not looking after our wellness. So what do you do? My question is, what do you do for yourself to make sure that you are there for your family in the best way possible, like fitness wise, or just wellness, being a good person, the best version of you? What do you do to look after yourself?
Well, that's a great question. And I think it's a great sponsor for the podcast, because I don't believe you can be a good father or mother. I don't believe you can be a great boss and lead people if you're not looking after yourself. How can you look after anyone else if you're sort of all messed up? And I think that goes both mentally and physically. And if you were to look at my goals for this year, you'd think, God, they're pretty unambitious from a money and a business perspective. And it's because they've always, for the last many years, my financial goals, my business success has always been my top goals. And actually, I've achieved them, but at the cost somewhat to my health. Let's call it what it is. I got fat. I got overly stressed. I got, a lot of unhealthy things happen from working the long hours and the stress that came with being a successful business leader. And I wasn't prioritizing my health. So I went back to the drawing board. I've hired a nutritionist. I've got on a good supplement regime. I've done some blood tests and understand what I need to supplement to be healthy. But just the way I plan my week and my months and my diary, I now do the same for the gym, my nutritionist, my eating. And by the way, I'm getting the same results. So it's just, look, life is hard, especially when you've got a family and we only have the same amount of time. You feel like you're running and juggling, and that's everyone, by the way. Everyone feels like they're doing that same balance. Your fitness is good, then your business is suffering. Your business is doing good, your relationship's suffering. It is tough. And as you say, it's a journey, but it's the will to work on it and try to just make that 1 or 2% better every single day or month in all things. Over the course of a year, it makes a big difference. So I've had times where I haven't prioritized my health and I've paid for it. And now I'm working really hard to rectify that.
And if we don't have the health, then the rest of our conversation is absolutely pointless. So that's, I suppose, the main aim of this series, is to get people to look holistically at their lives and not just be so bogged down in the work that they forget about living their life and making it that best it can be. So it's so refreshing to hear you say that you've been through all of those cycles of, not looking after it, and look what happened. So hopefully people will maybe hear that message and say, you know what, I need to maybe look after myself a little bit better in this too, because there only is one of you, right?
Can I tell you the best advice I got from Lord Sugar? The best, number one, above all else.
Save it for the end, right?
My favorite thing he taught me. So the same guy who told me about the rhinoceros skin, he also called me into his office one day and he said that I was working too hard. And I was like, how can you work too hard? He said, Mark, you're going to be the richest man in the graveyard. I was like, wow, that's pretty hard-hitting advice. And then Lord Sugar told me that in 55 years running businesses, he's never worked one weekend. He's never worked a Saturday and Sunday in 55 years. He's had some days maybe traveling here or there, but no work on the weekend. He works as hard as can be. Monday at 9 o'clock he starts, and at 5 o'clock on Friday he finishes, and the emails go down and the phone turns off. And when he's with his friends cycling or in his plane or with his wife or his kids, he's 100% there. And I don't think you can have his level of sustained success over a 55-year period without doing that. And I'd seen all this crap on TikTok and on Instagram. Oh, you need to work 120 hours a week to be successful. Oh, you need to work 100 hours a week to be a millionaire. Well, here is a successful billionaire telling me he doesn't do that. He's never worked a weekend. He has great fitness and work-life balance and a one wife and a marriage over a period. And I'm someone who I need to hear the advice from someone I know and respect and know they're getting the results to believe it. So it was like the most biggest revelation of my career that I didn't need to kill myself to be successful. Actually, I needed to do the opposite. I needed to create space to be with my family, to look after my health, to be successful. And from that day, it totally changed, and my life changed alongside of it.
Yeah, I think, so much there, and people need to realize, and they will, the more they listen to, I suppose, people like you be so honest about it, that you only got the one life, right? The one family, the one chance at this.
I have high blood pressure or stroke or any of this stuff. What was it all for anyway? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. The only thing that matters is your health and your family, and have fun with your business. And it's much better if you enjoy the process, because it's going to be tough. So just and that's why taking big decisions is necessary, but why you should have the guts to take it, because who cares if it don't work anyway? What, some guy at school that bullied you is going to say, oh, that guy lost some money? Who cares? It doesn't matter. No one's thinking about you anyway. Go out and make some big decisions and make them think about you.
It's so true. Mark, so you dropped in casually at the start, that you have the airline, so you're working really hard on, like, what's the name of the airline? Can we go check it out?
Okay, I've got lots of course, it's Wright on. All my brands are Wright on, the play on my last name. So I have my Wright on Property Group. I have Make More Noise, which is my PR company in Birmingham. I'm working with some companies here doing consulting, and I've just started a small aviation business called Wright on Aviation. And we have a pilot academy where we train people to be pilots, and we're starting in charter and aviation work all around Australia through North Queensland. So it's such an exciting business, because to own planes was it's always a bit of an entrepreneur's dream. I think you always want to have a plane, right? And I always thought in my head it was so hard or so expensive or so difficult, and it turns out it's actually really easy. Like all things, I think as a human being, you build everything up to be harder. Oh, the guy that owns a plane must know something I don't. The guy that's got more money than me must know something I don't. It turns out most people know about the same stuff. They're not, no one's that much cleverer or smarter or better than you. You just think differently. You don't think that you can. They think they can. And when I went through the process of buying the plane, I was like, this was really easy. I can basically do anything. And I think if you went and bought a skyscraper, bought a Ferrari, whatever this stuff, you can basically do anything while you're here. You've just got to want it, and you've got to have the will. And if you're prepared to take the risk, I think you'll find out that it's easier and more possible than you imagined.
Okay, so we're flying on Wright on airline. We're buying a property from you. We're getting some consultancy from you. Like, we can literally touch you in lots of different ways of your businesses. But I want to give people the chance to find out where to find you and where to follow the journey, because it's not stopping here. I can sense that. I want to say thank you for being on the Dig Podcast. Now, when I introduce you with your success story and your journey and all the things that you do, to take an hour to spend time with someone you don't know, to speak to me, I do not take that for granted. As I say to everybody on the podcast, everybody's time is precious, but you said yes straight away. You're here, you turned up. Some people don't turn up when they say they will. So thank you for that. I don't take that for granted, and I really, really appreciate it. I know everybody that listens will have got so much value. So thank you for showing up today.
Thank you so much for having me. How you do anything is how you do everything. I'm here on time. If I say yes, the only way I'd not be here is if I was dead, because I gave you the word I would be here. And that is success. Being who you say you are is what it's all about. But thank you very much for giving me your time and for creating this platform and helping people. Northern Ireland for me is a very special place. It's one of my most favorite, cherished places in the whole world. And any request from Northern Ireland always gets a yes. And your awards, the social media awards, were amazing and a great night and experience for me. So I was always going to come on and help and assist where possible. But thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I should have said that at the start. Mark was a judge on the Northern Ireland Social Media Awards, which I co-founded with Niamh Taylor from Digital 24. So we're, all about giving people a bit of a reward for their hard work on social, especially because it is hard work. But thank you. Go you back to your lovely family, and I hope to see you again sometime on this mad journey that we're on. And you just never know when, we all might be on that airline someday, right? And
only a matter of time.
Yeah.
Only a matter of time.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.